was there before he killed. For days, weeks perhaps, living in the shadow of this family, listening to every conversation, every laugh, every prayer before sleep. And when he finally acted, he killed them all. 6 people on an isolated farm in the heart of Bavaria. But what happened next is what makes this case unlike any other we have ever investigated. He didn't run. He stayed, fed the animals, kept the fire burning, ate their food, slept under the same roof as 6 corpses for days. And to this day, more than 100 years later, we still don't know who he was.
This is Zero Trace Noir, where the trails end, the investigation begins.
To understand what happened at Hinterkaifeck, you first need to understand the place. And the place was, by definition, the end of the world. The farm sat 70 kilometers north of Munich, deep in rural Bavaria. Not a village, not a neighborhood. An isolated property, surrounded by open fields and dense forest, reachable only by a dirt road that in winter became nearly impassable. There lived the Gruber family. Andreas, the patriarch, 63 years old. A man the neighbors described carefully, choosing their words, lowering their voices. Authoritarian, unpredictable. There were rumors about him that no one said out loud. Rumors that the police, much later, would be forced to unearth. His wife, Cecilia, 72 years old. Their daughter, Victoria, 35, a widow with 2 children. Little Cecilia, 7 years old, and the baby, Joseph, just 2 years of life ahead of him. And there was also the housemaid, but that detail, we will come back to it. In March of 1922, something was wrong on that farm. There were signs, clear warnings. Andreas Gruber saw every single one of them.
And he did nothing. Days before the murders, Andreas told a neighbor something that none of us could have ignored. He said he had found footprints in the snow, coming from the forest all the way to the farm's front door. But they didn't go back.
The footprints were only the first sign. In the days leading up to the massacre, Andreas Gruber reported to his neighbor a series of occurrences that, taken together, form a terrifying pattern. A house key had vanished without explanation. A newspaper appeared, an edition no one on the farm had purchased, and there were strange sounds coming from the attic at night. Andreas went up to the attic, searched, found no one, but someone had been there. Someone who knew the property, who knew where to enter, who knew how to move without being seen. And there is another detail investigators could never set aside. Months earlier, the family's previous housemaid had quit abruptly. She refused to give any clear explanation. She said only that the farm made her afraid, that there was something wrong about that place. A new housemaid, Maria Baumgartner, arrived at the farm on the 31st of March, 1922. It was her first day of work.
And her last.
That night, someone called each member of the family, one by one, out to the barn. None of them came back.
Forensic reconstruction indicates the deaths occurred on the night of the 31st of March into the 1st of April, 1922. The killer began in the barn. Andreas, grandmother Cecilia, Victoria, and little 7-year-old Cecilia were killed there, one by one, with a mattock, an agricultural tool with a sharpened pick. The blows were repeated and calculated. There was no hurry. There was no panic. The skull analysis revealed something that deeply disturbed everyone who investigated this case. Little Cecilia did not die immediately. She survived long enough to pull out strands of her own hair in agony, lying on the barn floor in the dark while her family lay around her. After the barn, the killer entered the house. The housemaid Maria was killed in her room. Baby Joseph was killed in his crib.
6 lives in a single night.
And after all of that, the killer did not leave through the door, did not vanish into the night.
He stayed. Neighbors began to notice smoke rising from the farm's chimney. The animals were being fed. There were clear signs of life. But no one from the family appeared. Not at the market, not at mass, not at school.
Who was inside that farm?
It took 4 days before anyone finally went to check. On the 4th of April, 1922, a group of neighbors and the local postman made their way to the farm. Little Cecilia had not appeared at school in days. There was no news from any member of the family. When they opened the barn, they found the 4 bodies covered with straw, as though someone had carefully arranged them. In the house, they found the housemaid Maria in her room, and baby Joseph still in his crib. But what truly froze the blood of everyone who entered that farm was the state of it. The fireplace was still warm. There was food prepared in the kitchen. The animals had been fed that very day. The killer had left only hours before, perhaps less. He knew someone was coming, and he waited until the very last possible moment. The investigation that followed involved more than 100 suspects, contradictory testimonies, family secrets that rural Bavaria preferred to keep buried.
And one secret in particular about the identity of baby Joseph's father that may change everything we think we know about this case.
The news from Munich is troubling.
What does it mean for us here?
We must be cautious.
The police will investigate.
The investigation began immediately and quickly revealed that the Gruber family kept deep and dark secrets. The first and most disturbing, baby Josef's birth certificate listed the father as unknown. But village rumors pointed to something that few dared to say aloud, that Andreas Gruber, the grandfather, might be the father of his own grandchild. Andreas had previously been convicted of incest with his daughter Victoria. A previous child had been born from that relationship. It did not survive. But there was another suspect, Lawrence Schlittenbauer, a neighboring farmer who claimed to be the true father of baby Joseph. He had been in a relationship with Victoria, and he was one of the first to enter the crime scene. He touched objects, moved bodies, contaminated the scene before the police arrived. Deliberate destruction of evidence, or simply the panic of an innocent man who found the body of a woman he had loved?
Nothing was ever proven against him, or against any of the more than 100 suspects questioned over the years.
The Second World War permanently interrupted the investigation. The victims' skulls, preserved for forensic analysis, disappeared in the bombings. The few physical pieces of evidence that existed vanished. In 2007, criminology students from the University of Augsburg reopened the case with modern methods. They analyzed every detail, interviewed descendants, reconstructed the crime scene.
And they reached a conclusion that turned the entire investigation upside down. The 2007 analysis pointed to Lorenz Schlittenbauer as the most likely suspect, but without enough evidence for any definitive conclusion. The case remains officially open. The profile of the killer, constructed over a century of investigation, suggests someone who knew the property deeply, who had access, who knew the family's routines, who was physically strong, who had a powerful motive: anger, shame, or fear of something the family knew about him. The farm was demolished years later, the land cleared. The local church did not place a cross at the site, a gesture that, for many, reflected the profound unease this case created throughout the entire community. Today, only a small memorial remains, a plaque, and silence.
The killer was never identified, never tried, never punished. He lived among us, he died among us, and he took the secret with him.
Andreas Gruber saw the footprints in the snow. He heard the footsteps in the attic. He found the missing key and the newspaper that nobody bought. And he did nothing. Perhaps he knew who it was. Perhaps he had his own secrets to keep. Perhaps he believed he could handle whatever was approaching. We will never know. What we do know is that for 4 days, while the world carried on around it, someone lived with 6 dead bodies on an isolated farm in the heart of Bavaria, fed the animals, kept the fire burning, and waited.
This is Zero Trace Noir, where the trails end, the investigation begins. If you made it this far, the next dossier is already being prepared. Subscribe, hit the bell. The next trail may be the last.